Hi, my name's Barry, and it's another warm day here in Sydney, but not as hot as yesterday. Yesterday was steaming, but thanks to a southerly change that came through last evening, it's cooled down a fair bit. And yet the bushfires are still raging up in the Blue Mountains and up and down the eastern seaboard, as they have done for the last 7 weeks. So what's causing it? Now, I'm not a meteorologist, but I was a firefighter for 34 years, and I've never seen conditions like this in all that time. We've had some very big blazes in those times, and old-time firefighters could rattle them off. But I've never seen a system of fires that lasted this long. Now, a lot of the arguments I'm seeing, particularly online, are about the heat. Either the heat is catastrophic and the world is about to explode, or it's just another hot summer's day in Sydney and we should all relax and have a beer. Now, to my mind, both those arguments are sort of missing the point. If it was just about the heat and yet we had rain, then we wouldn't have the bushfires and we'd just all be complaining about the heat. Now, I've fought in many bushfires over the years alongside the RFS, the National Parks and Wildlife, and just people in the community who are jumping in and lending a hand. And I've never seen anyone give anything but 100% always to try and do their best to keep these fires under control, to save what's happening around them. But the fact is, by and large, firefighters can't by themselves, no matter what they do, put out a massive bushfire. What they do is they keep conditions under control. They save the houses, they save the livestock, they save what they can, until we get a southerly change that sweeps up the coast and drenches it all and puts the fire out. Now, we all know southerly changes in Australia. They sweep up the coast, bringing thunderstorms and drenching rain. Then we spend a few days complaining about that it's wet rather than it's too hot. But the southerly change that came through last night was dry. And to my count, since the beginning of November, when the fire started, that's 11 dry southerly changes, or with hardly any rain in them all, in a row. And to me, that's unprecedented. And it's the reason that the bushfires are still burning. There's just no rain to put them out. Now, southerly changes do not come from the south. The weather systems that affect Australia actually come from the west. They pick up the moisture in the Indian Ocean and they sweep across the continent faster than the Earth is spinning by way of a global Coriolis effect. It just pushes them along. And the southerly changes that we feel are the forefront of each system as it hits us, dropping all its rain. But the wind comes from the south in the circular fashion. But not this year. This year we've had a change. The Indian Ocean dipole, which often affects the weather in the country at this time, has changed, and all the systems have been pushed much further to the south. So that while there has been some snow in Tasmania and even a bit in Perisher, I think, but for the rest of the mainland states, it's just been unbelievably dry. So these systems being pushed down are a change in the weather patterns that's happening. Now, a change in weather patterns is, by definition, climate change. So, I suppose the question is it catastrophic climate change? This is always something that gets thrown up. Because people are absolutist in one end of the argument or another. Is it catastrophic? Well, I think maybe that question is just relative. For me here in Sydney today, with a sea breeze blowing, I would not say I'm in catastrophic conditions. But 2 hours drive away in the Blue Mountains, I've got friends up there sending me photos and videos, and for them it is catastrophic. And now I've got to the point where if people are losing their lives, which they are, and if all the property is being burnt down, and all the livestock is dying, and all the wild fauna and flora is burning, then it's catastrophic. So, what do we do about it? Well, it will rain again, of course. That will happen. But I think by taking an absolutist position that climate change isn't happening, then we are not preparing for the future. I think it's time we just sucked it up and admitted that it is. Otherwise, we're going to have bushfires and catastrophes further into the future. But it's not just about that. We are the driest inhabited continent on the planet, and water management in this country is of paramount concern. It's been big in the news lately because of these dry conditions and because major river systems are being depleted. So it's not just bushfires, it's the fact that we are vulnerable to drier conditions. So I think it is time that we listen to land managers, that we listen to the scientists, and we put pressure on politicians, because as we know, and fair enough in some ways, a politician will only really respond if they think they're going to lose their job. So it's time that we pushed for our future. It's time that we push politicians to do what we're asking them to do, and to protect the environment, and to protect the river systems, and protect the countryside.